The Dallas Cowboys select Tyler Smith, offensive tackle / guard from Tulsa with the number 24 pick. What does that mean for the future of the offensive line? What do we think of the pick? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Well, Landon, they did it. They did it once again to me. They pull my heart out of my chest and disappoint me once again. It's okay. All right, welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter or not. You might be upset with me. I'm on Twitter now. Follow Landon at McCool BCB, where he is much more level-headed. Landon, how are you doing on this fine Thursday night?
I'm fighting for my life on my Twitter account because somebody has gone around and told everyone that Tyler Smith was my guy, and it kept on referring to Tyler Smith as my guy on our shared podcast. Yep. So I'm taking a lot of friendly fire right now, but otherwise I'm doing okay.
That was
clearly better than some Cowboys fans. I'll say that.
I will say, when we got to the pick of the draft, I fully expected them the Cowboys to take Tyler Smith. So if you haven't heard, Cowboys did take offensive tackle Tyler Smith at number 24. We've been talking about this a little bit. It became, I don't want to say like a common pick in mock drafts on Thursday morning, but it became a very much a possibility. So they did it. I just want what were your initial thoughts when it was announced that the Cowboys did select Tyler Smith?
That it's a reach. I mean, I think I want to be clear that, I don't hate the pick. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think it could work out great for the Cowboys. I don't think it's a great value pick.
I actually agree with you. I agree, 100% agree.
I think that the problem is that, if you take a high second round pick in the first round, everyone's still going to complain about it, right? And I think that for me, my disappointment came way earlier in the whole situation when I saw the way the board fell. There's no quarterbacks going. Finally Pittsburgh takes Pickett, but the way that the board fell was terrible for the Cowboys. And I think that that's the reality that they were picking with. People were talking about taking. I mean, honestly, I like this pick than them taking Jermaine Johnson or some of the other guys that were falling or whatever.
But from what I've heard. And again, I could be wrong. It was between Lewis Cine and Tyler Smith at 24. At least that's what I've heard.
That makes sense to me. I mean, I think, look, I thought that Jermaine Johnson got, and we talked about this, after the Senior Bowl, he got pushed crazy high. And I was never a fan of George Karlaftis. I mean, some other folks may want to talk about him, but I honestly don't hate those choices. I mean, again, I think Tyler Smith is a reach.
I never saw the Karlaftis thing for Dallas. I just didn't think
it doesn't make sense. And Lewis Cine, it's that's also a reach too, I think. But I also would have liked that pick. I think like I said, my initial thought was this is a reach for the Cowboys, but again, I don't hate the player the way that a lot of people that seemingly haven't seen him hate him.
All right, so there's so many things we have to get through, but All right, let's start with this. I think it's a reach. I looked at my board, and again, my board is just my thoughts. It's not the definitive board that you should trust at all, but I thought he was a third-round player because he is he's really just an athlete right now with a long wingspan, and he's gonna need a lot of development. And I kind of wish the Cowboys were in a situation where he didn't have to play right away, where he could, spend half the season just working on technique without being forced into the lineup. But my guess is that's not going to be the case. We should mention that the Cowboys did have trade offers to move down from pick 24. They actually had 3 different trade offers. However, one of the teams trading up was going to be Tennessee
trying
for
to get
Tyler Smith. Yeah. Or Tyler Smith. Yeah. So I don't know if the Cowboys wanted to move down anymore and potentially lose him, but that's apparently why they did move down.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, if ultimately you were trying to get one of these, it sounds like to me, just kind of based on the smoke, they were really trying to get somebody that could play guard and tackle, right? Like someone that
I
could.
think they wanted somebody, and Jerry Jones is spelling it out for you. They believe he's the left tackle in the NFL, but the plan
Yeah,
is to play him at left guard until they need him to.
yeah, and that makes sense. And I think, that plan in general, I thought made sense. Especially because the quality of players that you can get, it opens up your board more for what you can take. So yeah, Jerry just said that they had Zion and Kenyon below Tyler Smith. I mean, if they view the value at tackle there, maybe that's what they're thinking. I didn't agree with that necessarily, but I also can understand, that Tyler Smith may have been the last one of these kind of guys that they really thought that could play inside and then eventually outside on their board. This clearly seems to indicate that they may not think that Tyron Smith is going to be playing for too many more years. So they felt like they had to get, if they were going to do this, and they wanted to get somebody who could grow into the position. You either have to draft a tackle in the top 15 or 20, or you take a guy later and then develop him into a starting left tackle.
I just want to be clear on this. I actually really agree with that strategy. Like, I think that's the ideal way to do this, because you want Tyron to play as long as possible, because when Tyron plays, he is a really, really good left tackle. And it's really hard to find good left tackle. So if you can get a guy in here and have him play left guard and then slide him out to left tackle when you need him to, that's amazing. In some ways, the Cowboys did that with Tyron, right? They drafted him and played him at right tackle and then moved him over to left tackle when it was time to. They did this with Larry Allen a little bit early on in Larry Allen's career, right? Larry Allen eventually moved out to left tackle for, is that a year or two before sliding back to guard? But This is something they have a lot of experience doing. I agree with them. It's just I don't necessarily agree with them that this is the right player to potentially do that. That's all. We'll see. I think he's one of these guys with one of the widest ranges of potential outcomes, right? Like, because I could see him being a really good tackle in the NFL, but I also think there's a good chance that, with the wrong offensive line coach, and if he's forced to play right away, maybe he really struggles. I don't know.
I just think that his, look, I talked about this before, but his problems, his technique issues are very rudimentary. He hasn't been playing the position very long. He's only been exposed to Tulsa offensive line coaches. This isn't a situation where he's a waist bender with no power that is grabbing hold of guys because he can't out physical them. That's not the issue at all with this guy. The issue is that he comes out of his snap, and I'm trying to back up so people can see it. I understand podcast is not helpful. He comes out of his snap, and the first few movements, his hands are still down by his waist. And of course, that means that he's going to get his punch up late. It's going to be on the outside because he's not going to have time to get it inside on the defensive lineman. And that getting his hands on the outside of the frame of the defensive end, that's what's going to cause holding, because he's going to grab them and then he's going to bury them. And then that is what holding is. So I think that if they can just get him to come out of his stance with his hands up and then focus the punch, that is, to me, a much easier fix than trying to find a way to increase somebody's core strength that won't increase. He has the things that are hard to teach already in it, or not hard to teach, but hard to get, like the physicality, the nastiness. Those are things that you can't really coach or get in the weight room more than they already are. And he has problems that are eminently fixable. I think that, I would definitely not play him at tackle right away. I mean, I think it's an issue. But I think that working on his hand technique and then a move inside to guard until he can figure things out a little bit are going to help both of those issues. And I think that he has, especially when you talk about, look at what the Eagles did, right? They got Jordan Davis. And I think some people were talking about why didn't the Cowboys take Tyler Linderbaum? Imagine if Tyler Linderbaum had to line up against Jordan Davis 2 times a year. Like, I love Linderbaum, but that would be problematic. The Cowboys need more stoutness in their offensive line. I think that's probably one of the reasons that, despite Connor Williams being a decent, replacement, above replacement level guard in the NFL. They didn't sign him because they needed more oomph up front to defend the interior pass rush of some of these teams like the Eagles and the Giants.
All right, we have plenty more thoughts on Tyler Smith, what happened in the first round, what kind of led up to this pick, and what the Cowboys are going to do on Friday. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lens, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every single pair, and they will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay absolutely nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. And exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use promo code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That is promo code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses. All right, let's back up a little bit and talk about how we got to the Tyler Smith pick. So, again, some of this is based off of what we're hearing and behind the scenes stuff, but the Cowboys were looking to trade up for Drake London or Charles Cross. Drake London goes 8. It's far too high to trade up. Charles Cross goes 9 to Seattle, I believe. Too far to trade up. At that point, it seemed like the Cowboys were going to be patient and wait. Again, this is a little bit of what I've heard. Maybe it's not completely true, but they put in an offer to go up and try to get Chris Olave. They tried. Didn't get enough. The Saints ended up giving a better offer. I think they gave up a 3rd and 4th from pick 16 to go and do that. Cowboys couldn't get it. And at that point, I think they just waited. There's a couple guys that they liked potentially at 24 that they were hoping would fall to them. Trevor Penning was one. Jordan Davis was one. Both those guys went, Davis went 14, 15 range. Trevor Penning went 19. And then once I think the Cowboys got to pick 21, 22, it was pretty clear Tyler Smith is our best available player. He plays the more important position. That's where we're going to go. So that's kind of the way he played out. So any thoughts of this, just the way the draft played out altogether?
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, it was awful to watch. I mean, the sinking feeling really started. It looked good in the first 10 picks, right? Then the run of the wide receivers started going. And then the real sinking feeling I got, I think, was at 15. When the Houston Texans took Kenyon Green, I was like, they're gonna run out of guys that are the ones that we're talking about. That Zion Johnson went 17. Treylon Burks, the Tennessee traded up to go to get Treylon Burks at 18.
Well, they traded AJ Brown to get him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They traded AJ Brown to get him. So
basically, yeah. And then it's like, and then like I said, Trevor Penning goes right after that, and at that point, you felt like Tyler Smith was gonna fall to you. Hopefully, in fact, he almost didn't, because Tennessee had tried to trade ahead of the Cowboys to get him. So, but it did work out for them. They knew that they felt pretty confident that they weren't going to need to trade up to go get him, and they didn't. So, they sat there and they made their pick. And again, we could all disagree on whether it was good value or not. They had him ranked 16th on their board. That seems very high to me. I would have said 30s, at 40 maybe. But
why do you think they ranked him so highly?
He has things that are not coachable, that are not teachable. He has physical size and athleticism. He has a nasty temperament. He's incredibly strong. There are not many college offensive linemen that come out into the NFL that are strong like this guy. And his technique is bad, but it's not like, start from the ground up bad. I think it's one of those things where I think a lot of teams, a lot of people were scared off by the holding numbers and that sort of thing. I think you had to dig a little deeper here. I think you had to look a little deeper at what was causing the holding issues. How fixable is it? How coachable is this kid? How all those things.
It sounds like he
and
is very coachable, right?
Yeah, and I think that's look, he played defensive line in high school, and then he only, like I said, he's only had Tulsa offensive line coaches teaching him how to play. So
can I interject really quickly?
Yeah.
So people are comparing this to the Taco pick. I want to explain why it's a little bit different, right? Taco came from a big school, and he was long, right? But he wasn't very productive, and he was a very average athlete. That's not the case for Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith has the athleticism. He has extreme length. And listen, I don't want to shoot down Tulsa's weight room or anything like that, but I've got a feeling that their weight program probably isn't the same as like a Michigan or Ohio State, right? So I think the belief for the Cowboys is hey, we get him into our strength program. Maybe we have him cut some weight because I think he was 325 at the combine. We get him down to 317. Put some more mass on him, we can get a completely different player by the time he's 24 years old.
And again, he's 21 right now. He's still incredibly young. He just turned 21, and so he's still got a lot of room to grow. I just think there's a couple. Like I said, I've already mentioned kind of all the angles, but I think a move inside temporarily will help with some of these issues. I just think that the comparison to Taco is it shows a lack of nuance. It shows a lack of nuance in the situation that also shows a lack of nuance in the evaluation of the player.
A better example would be Tristan Hill, right? Because Tristan Hill was kind of a smaller school, really athletic, but the technique was all over the place, right? Now the difference is Tristan Hill had maybe some maturity problems, right, coming out of school, where it doesn't seem like that's the case for Tyler Smith. But you do wonder, like, how fixable are the problems that the Cowboys have with Tyler Smith? Like, how quickly can you fix that stuff? We'll see.
I think Tristan Hill was more of a reach than Tyler Smith is, honestly, because I think there were other teams that were willing to trade up to go get Tyler Smith in front of the Cowboys in this very draft. I don't know that anybody else was feeling that way about Tristan Hill where the Cowboys took him. The Cowboys took him there because they needed the position. They didn't have a first-round pick, and they reached for that spot. I think they may have reached a little bit, obviously, because they needed a guard to tackle here. But this is – I just disagree strongly with the idea that this is like a third-round pick. I mean, I know that that's where you had him, but I just think he's a much better player than that.
Okay. And that's fine. We'll see. I don't feel like he's going to be an absolute bust. I do think the Cowboys can get a pretty good player here, but you're still hoping a lot that he can develop, and it might look really ugly in year one. Like, it might be a real struggle for him, but the hope is that he can really improve over the next couple of years. So I want to get to what the Cowboys might be able to do on day 2. But just any other thoughts from round 1? I thought the Cole Strange pick to the Patriots was hilarious. Did you see Sean McVay's reaction? Did you see that video?
I saw the Rams, right? Like, yeah, I mean,
Sean McVay's like, why did we waste our time thinking he was going to be that 104?
There's your reach. I mean, if you want to talk about a team reaching for an interior offensive lineman in the first round, no one's going to be talking about Tyler Smith, guys. They're talking about Cole Strange. Like, that's crazy to me. So, I think if anything, it goes to show you that these teams don't value these players the way that we do. And a lot of times, especially with offensive linemen, like, they may have more and better information than we do. So,
we should also say that Stephen Jones confirmed that they only had 14 first-round grades. So, Tyler Smith was 16. So they took a second-round player, but that's not uncommon anyways when you draft in the 20s, especially not this year. What do you think about the rest of the NFC East? Because I got to admit, don't really, as a Cowboy fan, I don't love what the Giants did. Thibodeau and Evan Neal is...
Yeah, that was a great draft. I mean, I certainly can't deny that. I mean, again, no quarterbacks for either one of those two teams, so...
But at the same time, it's hard to blame them. Right, like this class.
Oh no, the class is terrible. They were in a terrible spot. It's kind of like these teams that are like, man, the Eagles did all this without giving away their 2 first-round picks. Well, duh. They can't give away their 2 first-round picks next year because they still need a quarterback. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, they can whistle past the graveyard with Jalen Hurts all they want, and the Giants even more so with their quarterback. But yeah, like there's no doubt the Eagles and the Giants, as far as team wide, improved their teams much more than the Cowboys did. But they also had way more resources than the Cowboys going in to do that. So that's not surprising.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about what the Cowboys can do in round 2 to salvage this draft, or at least in my opinion.
Salvage, come on, give me a break.
Well, we'll see. Summer is coming, and you're gonna need some snack foods this summer. I know. Listen, I did not do well in terms of eating right on Thursday night. I was stress eating. I had about 3 Carmelo bars and a couple Cokes.
Oh man.
I need to start eating better. I'm gonna start eating better on Friday when I have my Built Bar, like I do for lunch. Built Bars contain only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 4 net carbs, but 17 grams of protein. Compare that to your average candy bar, like a Carmelo, that usually has like 280 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Go to built.com right now and check out all the new flavors, including banana cream, raspberry, double chocolate, and so many more. They're so delicious, and they've got new flavors coming out all the time. Go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, let's talk about what the Cowboys could do here on day 2. First and
Well,
foremost, go ahead.
I think all we need to do is get a little bit clearer picture of exactly of Jerry Jones holding up the board. I don't know if you saw that. It's
Yes,
all
I
over
did. I'm
Twitter
looking
now.
at it right now. It's pretty blurry.
It's very blurry. But if only we could get that cleared up, we could probably have a
will.
great idea of exactly who the Cowboys are going to pick in the second round. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But
No,
go ahead.
I've got the board here on, at least by the consensus board, the top players remaining. Some of these guys are going to fly off the board. Nakobe Dean, Arnold Ebiketie, Andrew Booth, Malik Willis, Travis Jones, Bernard Ryman, David Ojabo, Kenneth Walker, my guy Logan Hall still there, Kyler Gordon, a corner that I actually really like, Jaquan Brisker, Pickens, Sky Moore. What do you anticipate the Cowboys doing on Friday?
I mean, they got it. I think they have to look at wide receiver. See what's there. I'm really starting to wonder if we couldn't at least consider Sky Moore. At some point, he's fallen all this way. I wonder if the Cowboys would consider a move up. I mean, they've already considered a move up to go get Olave. So yeah, I just wonder if they don't maybe make a move to go get a wide receiver. The pickings are pretty thin at this point. At the very least, they may need to reach for another wide receiver at 56, or consider just waiting and then having to kind of go some sort of alternate plan to get wide receivers. But wide receivers got to be something there, right? Like,
to me, it felt like today they got to a certain point, and the rest of the league's like, you know what, we're done at receiver. It's just, there's just nobody else that's available that's worth that pick. Like, once we got past Jahan Dotson and Treylon Burks, I mean, it's such a big gap, at least for me. But do you draft a receiver in the second round and then hope you can fill the other positions? I don't know. I almost think they have to go defense with this next pick, in my opinion. There's too many good defenders still available.
There are a lot of good defenders still available. I just think that the way the wide receivers have flown off the board, I'd have concerns about waiting to the third, to be honest. But I mean, maybe someone lasts. I don't disagree with you. The board is terrible. The way it fell for the Cowboys is terrible. There's just no way around it. I think they're making the best of the situation they got.
So here's the receivers available: George Pickens, Sky Moore, Christian Watson, John Mechie. And then if you look at the consensus board after that, we're talking massive drops off. So Jalen Tolbert, Khalil Shakir, Calvin Austin, Wan'Dale Robinson. And then after that, another tier where we're talking about like 5th, 6th round receivers.
Maybe what they do is take the best defensive player at 56 and then trade up from 88. Because I think in the 70s, 60s, 70s is really going to be your last stand for wide receiver. Right?
Like, get Khalil Shakir in the 3rd round.
or Austin,
or
or
Austin.
if Watson falls, or any of these other guys, because I think the only guy that you would like really want to, the only two guys that you would really feel like taking at 56 at wide receiver would be Sky Moore, who we're not sure if they're going to take, and someone like Pickens, maybe Watson, but I don't even know there. So I think that it's more appetizing, and now that we kind of sussed it out a little bit, it probably is more appetizing if you can somehow manage to get Ebukake to fall down to you at 56, or one of those guys, and then to trade up from 88, and
Is there anybody on the board that like you want to start making calls right now to go get at 35, 36, or no? Boy Mafi, Logan Hall, anybody like that?
I mean, Ebukite, like I said, is a guy that I would think about.
Nakobe
We haven't
Dean?
heard much of. We have what?
Nakobe Dean?
I mean,
You're not as high on
maybe.
Nakobe Dean as I am.
No, I like him a lot, but I don't know that. I think a trade up for that. Look,
I trade up
Travis
for a linebacker.
Travis Jones, maybe. Like,
They did have somebody at Travis Jones's pro day.
So, I could see that. I mean, I think he's a guy that could come in and really help your defense out a lot, right? Like, just because you don't really have you have a lot of kind of three technique penetrator guys, but he's a guy that could really bully guys in the middle, and you don't really have necessarily a ton of that, on the line right now. So
you know what we need? We need like 4 quarterbacks to come off the board, like the next 12 picks.
I mean,
or so.
that's really, I mean, if you want to talk about the disaster of this draft, it's that no quarterbacks except for Pickett got taken in the first round. Like
that, and like some of the edge rushers, like we heard, like maybe Boy Mafi could sneak into the first round, and Arnold Ebiketie and Drake Jackson. We had seemed like there was a big social media push to get Drake Jackson in the first round on Thursday. None of those guys went. It was pretty chalky for the most part, and I think it screwed Dallas up a little bit. So, I honestly, I don't think there's a reason to trade up yet, because there are still guys that I like that could be available at 56 that, I think would be, improvements. For example, DeMarvin Leal. We took DeMarvin Leal in one of our mocks on Wednesday night. If he's there at 56, I can see how that would make sense. Perrion Winfrey. I like Winfrey a little bit more than you do. I can see Dallas being interested there. Maybe you get somebody like Chad Muma or Boy Mafi falls that far or something like that. So I think I'm good, at least waiting. I don't think the Cowboys should panic here at all.
not at 56 at this point. I don't think they should trade up maybe at 88.
I would love for them to get another 3rd round pick somehow.
You think they should trade back? I mean, I actually wouldn't have a problem with trading back at 56.
Not necessarily trading back, but like taking your 4th and maybe a 4th next year and a 5th this year, and trying to get like a pick 90 or something. Like, and that's the pick you use to go get your tight end, or that's the pick you use to go get Brian Asamoah, a linebacker for you, or something like that. I would like to see the Cowboys in the next, on day 2, have 3 picks where they can get 3 guys they feel like can contribute this year.
They got a lot of picks on day 3 too. So if someone's looking to kind of get a bevy of those kind of 3rd round picks in a deep draft, then those are also pieces that can be moved around as well.
So we're basically saying, are you ready for Sam Williams, pick 56 tomorrow?
I mean, I don't hate Sam Williams. I think I'm okay with that. I like Sam Williams. I mean,
this is the Landon McCool draft.
This is not. I mean, this is like that's the thing, is that I don't hate Sam Williams. An SEC, an athletic SEC producer at defensive end. Again, his problems are not about football. Yeah. I'm just judging the guy on football. So that's all I got on him.
Just one final thing I wanted to mention before we head out. Tyler Smith for the Cowboys wasn't a pick that all of a sudden came about over the last couple of days, right? And I know it maybe seems like that because I think people started to find out Thursday morning that the Cowboys were seriously interested in him. I double checked today. Go listen to our March 10th show.
Oh yeah.
We talked about it. Exact words are, if the Cowboys move on from Lyle Collins, watch Tyler Smith. They've got a lot of interest in him. We talked about this, and I didn't love it then, but
I'm getting people in my mentions right now just killing me, saying that I'm a homer. Literally, guys, go listen to the video. Then I have not changed my tune about how I feel about Tyler Smith at all. I thought he should have been a high second round pick. He got taken in the late first. I think it was a reach. I still think that he could be a good player. My issues with the way he plays, my cons for him, my pros are exactly the same as they were then. We told you that this was a possibility here, and I don't think it's. I don't know. I think people have kind of got this sense of dread in here because there's been several prominent members of Cowboys, football's Twitter that don't like him.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. A lot of Cowboys Twitter really respects and listens to Dane Brugler, as they should. Dane's one of the best guys out there, and Dane has him ranked 50. And he talked about how it would be a major reach in this draft, and that's not somebody you should draft in the first round. So when you hear it from somebody that's as well respected as Dane, plus you hear it from maybe Lance Zierlein, who's a little bit of an offensive line guru, and the rest of Cowboys Twitter, I understand why people are maybe frustrated.
That's fair. I mean, I certainly can't argue with the draft positioning. You weren't getting a first round player at 24. I mean, that's you weren't. There wasn't one available. So, I mean, I think at this point you were hoping to get good value there, but there wasn't good value there for almost any position. So you get a guy that you think you're going to get the most usefulness out of. He's going to come in here. He's going to start at guard for you this season, and then a couple of years from now, he's going to slide out to tackle. You hope, and if that all works out, I have a hard time believing that the 24th pick wasn't worth that. To be honest.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll come back on day 2, and we'll hope that we can have a home run of a draft. Right? The draft is more than just first round. Right? You can find guys that you really like on day 2 and day 3. And those are the drafts where the good teams win at, right? We'll see what the Cowboys do. If you are upset with the draft, just go look at the Packers draft. That'll make you feel better. They drafted an off-the-ball linebacker, an old defensive tackle. You made some money on Quay Walker, being the first linebacker drafted and going in the first round, correct?
I did.
Congratulations
I made some
to you.
money. I'll send it to all the appropriate folks.
Yeah, shout out to Bet Online. So,
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
that is our show today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Not quite sure when we're gonna do our next show, but it'll be soon. Either after day 2, after day 3, we'll figure it out. Follow us on Twitter where you can get our live reactions on the picks. That's Landon at McCoolBCB. I am at Marcus_Mosher. Please go check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Enjoy day 2 and day 3 of the draft. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.